All right, after traveling the country for 10 years, Alicia Haygood found home in Scottsdale and decided to start a podcast about the cool city she lives in. Good morning, Alicia. How are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
This is great to have you here and having fresh eyes on our city. And everybody does podcasts. I'm not knocking them, but it's like usually about, the food, just the food, or just the bars, or just a drink, or just this and that. You have branched out and said, you know what, people, there's some hidden gems right in your own backyard that you might forget about.
That's just it. And you kind of summed up, there are a ton of podcasts, and there's a lot of niche podcasts, and I'm for Scottsdale because Scottsdale is huge and there is so much to do here that I really am just bringing a fresh eyes to it. I think that we forget as we get into our daily routine and we see the same people and go on the same roads, we forget that this new place just popped up, or we don't know the story behind the people who started this company. And I think that's my interest came from, is who are these people? I fell in love with this city, but why?
Yeah.
It's because of the community.
So is your background in podcasting? Because that's sometimes a lot of people start them up and they just don't know what they're doing. But
right.
You pretty much have...
probably didn't know what I was doing. So that no, I actually started in television, believe it or not. I worked in television behind the scenes for about a dozen years. I took a few years off. We moved a little bit for my husband's job. I had my children and it just wasn't conducive, the hours to raising a family. And when we moved here 2 years ago, I looked at my husband and was like, I'm out. I don't want to be known as just a mom and a wife anymore. I needed Alicia back. And I was telling him it's weird to not hear your name for a week or two.
Yeah.
You know, your wife, your mom, mommy, and I needed Alicia back. And so my neighborhood had a podcast in North Scottsdale. So I started working there. Within 6 weeks, I took over it. I ended up buying the company this past spring.
Wow.
And so I bought them out and rebranded it to Michelle Media. And then I started the Scottsdale Vibes podcast with it.
Look, wow. If you're a mom out there, the kids are going back to school. She just did it right there. She's like, I'm out. I'm out. I'm no longer.
I'm done. Thank you for going back to school. Thank you, teachers, for that.
Now, do the kids call you Alicia now, or do they still mom?
They should, right? It's still mommy more times in a day than I could count. You know, if I even had a penny for every time they said my name, I'd be rich right now.
It is. So this is great. So let's talk about some of the things you do on the podcast, because I know you interview people. Mm-hmm. You go out and give your input about different places and little hidden gems. That's the big part.
It is. It's really the why. Why do we love this place? Why do we love going here? And I think if we just forget to ask why. So when my podcasts are very focused on one person, I'm only going to have one person per episode. I want to feature them, why they came here, because Scottsdale's a melting pot. You know, not many people are born and raised here. And I think it's really interesting that all of us have claimed Scottsdale as home. So what is your reason? And one of my favorite questions to end every episode is what's your favorite Scottsdale vibe? And I've never gotten the same answer twice. And I think that answer is why we love Scottsdale. It's all for these different reasons. So I do focus on the why we're here. Why do you love it? Why are you starting here? It's just, I want to know, so I know I'm not the only one here that wants to know.
Well, I think people do, because, I mean, I think when people mention Arizona, the first thing they say is Scottsdale.
Yeah.
But there's Phoenix, there's Glendale, there's all these different places, but they do say Scottsdale always. Why do you think they do that?
It's beautiful. I mean, it's really known, the resort life here, the conferences that come here, and it's really funny. When I ask people, how did you end up here? So many tell me, well, we used to come here for conferences every year for 10, 15, 20 years. My wife and I decided it's time to move here. You know, a lot of them love the weather, believe it or not. But I also understand the snowbirds, why they leave for those 3 months. Scottsdale's beautiful. The community and the love of the people, and I personally think the entrepreneurship that's successful here, I thrive off of that.
Yeah.
It's just a very successful city, and it really gives you the motivation to be your best self, I think.
And you got to listen to this podcast, because one thing is again, when people say Scottsdale, they think of that North Scottsdale. They think of literally Frank Lloyd Wright and up to Cave, Creek.
Right.
And they think of all the big houses and all that. But there's the south part of Scottsdale and the east and west that people don't realize. And it's not just about the old town Scottsdale.
It's not.
And there's some really hidden gems there.
And I think that's key too, is when we first started this, I have some amazing sponsors that support me, and a lot of them have been here for decades. And we talked about doing a North Scottsdale podcast, and then one day it dawned on me, I was like, that's not fair. North Scottsdale doesn't represent Scottsdale. There is a whole South Side, like you said, that doesn't feel loved and appreciated, and they are just as much as part of Scottsdale too. So I am reaching out, and that's what I do. I make cold calls, I reach out to these people and places, and I want them on because they have a story just like everyone else in North Scottsdale does too.
Okay, I'm going to ask you.
Okay.
Let me see, you have the media company.
I do.
Someone's probably watching right now going, you know what, I live in Gilbert, I live in Chandler, I live in Mesa, I live in, Glendale, I live in these places. Would you like to have them come underneath your umbrella as those kind of vibes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everyone loves where they live, and you should represent that and share your love with the world. And I would love to have more people out with me and come. Gilbert podcast, Chandler podcast, Buckeye podcast for all you Ohio State fans out there. There is ample opportunity to show love for your city, and I would absolutely love to help them start one underneath my umbrella. Yeah.
All right. Tell them how they can get a hold of you and how they can listen.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So we release a new episode every Monday, Scottsdale Vibes. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcast. You can also reach me at alicia@scottsdalevibes.media. You can go to scottsdalevibes.media, our website, and check it out. I'm everywhere. Social media, Scottsdale Vibes Podcast. You name it, I'm there.
Thank you, Alicia. This is great. So we got some good vibes about Scottsdale. You got to check it out.